Welcome to the Adoption and Foster Care Journey, a podcast to encourage, educate, and equip you to care for children and youth through adoption, foster, and kinship care. Hosted by an adoptive mom with over 22 years of kinship and adoptive parenting experience. She's on this journey with you. Please welcome Sandra Flach.
Call on me, and I will answer you, and I will show you great and mighty things which you do not know. That is Jeremiah 33, verse 3, and I'm your host, Sandra Flach. Welcome to the Adoption and Foster Care Journey, where you will find encouragement, resources, and community. I am a mom of 8, 5 through adoption, including 2 young adults who are both diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome when they were little. They are now in their early 20s. I understand the challenges faced when raising children with trauma and prenatal substance exposure, and I am here with resources and encouragement and support for you, such as my upcoming online workshop, Wired Differently. Wired Differently is a 3-hour online class where we go deep into brain-based differences like fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, ADHD, trauma, all the things, using the Facets neurobehavioral model. So this workshop, Wired Differently, is coming up on June 24th. So it is right around the corner. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and we want you to register for that now so you can secure a spot in this online workshop. So there's a link in the show notes where you can go to sign up, and I hope to see you there. It is a live workshop. I will be teaching live. It's not a recording. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you there. And my newest book is another great resource for parents on this journey. Soul Care Saturday, 52 Devotions for Foster and Adoptive Moms, is available on Amazon. And I hope that you will check that out. If you do grab a copy and you love it, and I'm suspecting that you will love it, go back in there on Amazon and leave a review. That would really, really bless me. It's definitely something every author hopes to have, is those reviews on Amazon. So I hope that you'll do that. Now, I'd love to also connect with you in person, and a little update on my 2026 speaking calendar. In September, I will be at the Christian Alliance for Orphans Summit in Atlanta, Georgia, September 23rd through the 25th. I will be leading a coaching room, and as well as a meetup for parents and caregivers of kids with FASD. So I'll hope to see you there. If you come to Atlanta, please find me. I will have an exhibitor booth, so you can find me in the exhibit hall. We can connect, take a selfie. I've got lots of resources I'll be bringing with me to hand out. So I hope to see you there, as well as I will be in Chicago for Replanted October 15th through 17th, where I just found out I will be leading 3 breakout sessions. So there's lots of opportunity to connect there as well. So I do have room in my calendar for your event. So if you're interested in having me come to speak to your group, if it's your group of foster and adoptive parents, your church ministry, you're leading a retreat for foster and adoptive moms, whatever you may be doing, or maybe you just want an online Zoom with your support group, or I come in and do a 1-hour presentation on FASD, whatever you would like, whatever you would need. If you're interested in having me do it, reach out to me. My email address is in the show notes. It's super simple, sandraflack@justicefororphans.org. I answer my own email, and we can get something on the calendar, so I can come to you, or we could meet online. So I hope that you will do that. Now, in honor of Father's Day, we have a special guest with us today. Jodi Tucker is the father of 8 children, 5 of whom were adopted. Now, he's not the father of my children, but Jodi and I have this in common. We're both moms of 8 with 5 adopted. Jerry is also the grandfather of 9 with a 10th on the way. He's a real estate professional. Jerry is husband, like I said, of Jodi Jackson Tucker, who's the founder of Second Mothers, an organization that supports foster and adoptive mothers. Together, Jerry and Jodi created the Renew Retreat. I was just out at Renew in North Carolina back in the beginning of May. That is an annual respite for foster and adoptive parents. Jerry is also part of a team that is seeking to launch a second father initiative in the coming months. We're going to learn more about that. So Without further ado, please welcome Jodi Tucker. Hey, Jodi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sandra. It's so good to be here, and it's good to see you. I'm happy to be here and to be part of your program.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you too. Normally, we just pass along the hallways at places like CAFO and Replant, or not Replanted. Well, yes, I've seen you at Replanted and
And Renew,
Renew
yeah.
and all of the places.
Mhm.
So it's nice to connect this way because I'm familiar with your story and I'm excited for our listeners to hear your story from your perspective because we've had Jodi on the show before. So I'm super excited about that. I know I was thinking earlier when I was contemplating our interview, and I thought, that saying, behind every great man is a great woman. I think
Yeah.
I think the reverse can be said. It can be true as well. Behind every great woman, there's a great man, and I know many of our listeners know Jodi and her great work through her years of serving as the international director of Orphan Sunday for CAFO and the Second Mother's Bible Study that she's written and Renew and just her ministry internationally, traveling and speaking. But just like I can't do what I do without my husband Wayne's support. You are always there behind the scenes, supporting and being there for Jodi. So I greatly appreciate that you serve the Lord and you serve Jodi in that way. So thank you for what you do.
It's my blessing.
Yeah. I can tell you do it with joy, and I see similarly in my husband Wayne. But let's get to your story. I always love hearing the adoption story from the perspective of the dad. It's often a little bit different than the mom's perspective. I know that you and Jodi married a little later in life and had a blended family, but then you pursued adoption. So could you just share with us what led you to adopt?
Yes, I can. So when I met Jodi, I had two really fully grown children, and she had two kind of half-grown children. One of her children was adopted at birth, and so adoption was already in the mix. In fact, Jodi grew up with an adopted sister and brother. So we were married early in our marriage. We were attending a church that was supporting the African Children's Choir when they were in the U.S. and we got involved in that program in a big way. And really, because of those children, we ended up making a trip to Uganda. And while we were in Uganda and saw the plight of the orphan in Uganda, we were moved in a big way that somebody needed to do something. When we came back, that's when Jodi started spending all of her time on orphan work. She started learning about the various ministries and what the situations were in the different countries. And then one day she came and asked me, "Hey, what would you think about me attending this thing called the CAFO Summit?" It was the Christian Alliance for Orphans annual summit. And so she went to the summit, and uh, Elizabeth Stife from Saddleback and was speaking, and she had adopted older children. And there was another young man from Liberia who was speaking, and he talked about the importance of adopting older children because he had been adopted at 14. And it was very moving. And one of the fun parts of the story was I got a text from my wife while she was at this conference where it said, "I think there are more children in your future." Well, I was in my mid 50s and we thought we were beyond uh, childbearing. So I said, "Could you please give me a call?" And so we talked about that, and we ultimately decided that we were going to adopt. Um, and we thought because of our connection to Uganda, we would try to adopt from Uganda. And it was actually my idea that, hey, if we're going to adopt one, let's go ahead and get two, especially since they're coming from a different culture. That might be an easier transition. And lo and behold, we ended up with four. We adopted two sets of siblings who were cousins. Um, so basically, they were growing up as siblings. So they were already a family, and they were ages 15, 14, 12, and 7.
Wow.
I was 55 when I adopted. So that's how it all started. And and so yeah, I guess that's the adoption story.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
So what year was that? How long ago was that when they all came home?
It's an interesting thing. We actually, if I get deeper into story, three of them came in 2010. And then ultimately, we found out that there was a brother left behind. And so we decided we've got to go find him. And we did. And he's been such a blessing. He's a wonderful man now. And it took some time to make that happen. So he ended up coming in 2013. He was 15 years old. He was almost aged out of the possibility of being adopted, but we got him in under the wire, and he's been a wonderful blessing to our family.
Wow. So it's funny, Jerry, because this is another area where our stories are very similar. Because I know when I was reading your bio, you and Jodi have 8 kids, 5 through adoption. Wayne and I have 8 kids, 5 through adoption. And our 4 that came internationally came from Ukraine, not Uganda, but we brought home the first 3 siblings together, found out there was a fourth sibling, and eventually went back for him. So it's uncanny how there's
Wow.
that
Yeah.
similarity there.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. So, I know they're all big now, but as they came home, and I know that they were older kids, what was that adjustment like for you? Because all of a sudden, I know you guys weren't married. It wasn't like you'd been married for 25 years and decided to do this.
Right.
Now you've got these, kids who really grew up. They were all older when they came, and now they're in the United States, and it's a completely different country and culture. What was that like for you?
Well, it was definitely an adjustment, especially culturally. There were certainly some adjustments. You think that as much study as you do, you don't realize just how different it's going to be, especially from the environment they came from, because there were a lot of things here that they didn't have there, and so there were a lot of things to learn about how to use certain things, and how to use appliances or use washing machines or microwaves or things like that. And certainly all of those things were a big adjustment. But as much as anything, there was a huge adjustment, believe it or not, on independence, I guess, and from the standpoint of needing to really be accountable to the family, and not just not just always kind of doing your own thing. And I don't mean that to sound negative at all. It's just they were used to that. They were kind of free spirits where they were, and could go and come, even though they were in an orphanage. But being part of a family, telling mom when I'm about to go somewhere or things like that, that was all an adjustment. And but probably most of all, just the cultural adjustments. But we we had, as I mentioned, we had two girls at home when we started the process, but one of them had gone off to college. So it left the one that was at home, and that was actually our adopted daughter, with four new adopted children. And so blending everybody together was quite a process. But it all went very well. Our daughters, who were at home, uh, engaged the adoption process readily, and there was never anything negative about the fact that we were bringing these children into the home. It was more odd for my older children who were not there, who was like, "What? What are we doing here?"
Yeah.
But but that has all gone well too, over the years.
Wow. So I know, our kids come in, there's trauma. I know it sounds like, understandably so. They're used to being somewhat independent and taking care of themselves. They had to learn to survive in Uganda. So then learning to come under the authority of parents and living in a family is always a challenge, oftentimes. And I know for Wayne and I, we weren't really prepared for understanding the impacts of trauma on our kids and what that would look like and how it would play out in behaviors and decisions that they made and things like that. So what were some of the trials and challenges that you and Jodi have walked through with your kids?
Well, and I don't think we were prepared for the impact and the onion peeling, if you will, of the trauma. Our children had some traumatic experiences, death of parents and all kinds of other things that really kind of got released over time, that we didn't even know, but it kind of presents itself over time, and it presents itself in different ways depending on the child. And and so we just had to, sometimes you had to think about therapy. Sometimes you had to think about it. You had to study, how am I going to handle this particular issue? But but it was different with every child. Some of the children saw this adoption as such an opportunity that there was never any looking back. It was like, I'm going to seize this. And others had a harder time with that, and kind of held on to uh, what they thought was normal before. And so, and just dealing with some of the things that, I mean, we're still learning things. Has been that long. We're still learning things about our children that present themselves, regularly.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know it's a difficult journey. Jodi's been on the show before and has shared things and when she speaks publicly as well. And so it is we're still learning too, because things like you said, you peel back the onion, there's lots of layers and seasons and stages, and it definitely is lifelong relationship and it can be very challenging at times, but filled with blessings as well. I know you have 11 grandchildren now, and those 8 kids, 5 through adoption. I'm not going to ask you. Sometimes I'll ask a parent, so how old are your kids now and how are they doing? And I struggle because I have 8 kids, and when somebody asks me how old they are, I'm like, I don't know. I have to stop and think and still don't get it right. So I'll spare you that question unless you can, dazzle us
Well,
that
it's kind of fun to answer that question. My oldest biological son just turned 47.
Oh, wow.
And my youngest adopted son just turned 23.
Wow.
Well, then my oldest grandson just turned 20. It's a
Wow.
sophomore in college, and we have one on the way.
Yes. Well,
So,
I'm impressed that you know
yeah,
the numbers.
I call ours just a continuum. It just continues. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could be a great grandfather in a few years. I'm not trying to rush anybody, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that
And
could
so
very well.
our oldest biological is 37 and our youngest adopted is um he'll be 21 this fall.
Mm.
And then our oldest grandchild is 12 and a half. And then our
Ah,
youngest was just born. He's 3 months old now. So, uh,
hmm.
so I can do that. But some days if I have to rattle off everybody's specific age, I'm like, I have no idea. So, but overall, how give us a glimpse of your at least your 4 Ugandans, or however many that you want to share of what your kids are up to. How is everybody doing now?
Whenever I get asked how are the kids doing, um, I have the standard answer of it depends on where you point. There are some that are thriving and doing very well, and some that are still finding their way and struggling. I mean, we've got professionals with master's degrees. We've got research chemists, and we've also got children who are still trying to figure out what's next. But the good news is we're still all connected. We kind of famously call ourselves Team Tucker. In fact, usually at Christmas there's a T-shirt or a hoodie or a hat or something that says Team Tucker, and everybody gets one, and we all wear them. And we also have a Team Tucker verse, which is Ephesians 2:10, about being workmanship, created for good works, and that's our Team Tucker verse. I know I gave you my personal go-to verse, but that's our Team Tucker verse.
Sandra Flach, host of the Adoption and Foster Care Journey podcast, and FASD educator Debbie Raymond invite you to join Hope for the FASD Journey, a virtual support community for parents and caregivers raising individuals with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, diagnosed or not. This faith-based support community meets online 3 times each month, features special VIP guests, and a private Facebook group for members only, which includes Soul Care Saturday video devotionals led by Sandra and Deb. Both Sandra and Deb are adoptive moms raising kids with FASD and facilitators of the Facets neurobehavioral model. For details and to register, visit justicefororphansny.org/hope-community. That's justicefororphansny.org/hope-community.
So, Jerry, as a dad, what has been maybe the most challenging part of the adoption journey, maybe that surprised you as well?
Well, beyond the trauma, it's just finding the proper way to connect with each child and maintain that connection. And that takes some work. And sometimes it just requires sitting there sitting there quietly until they're ready to connect. One of my children is very quiet, very reserved in response. But the interesting thing about that, I've learned that with that particular child, quality time is what's important. So just sitting there, waiting for the conversation to blossom is important. Whereas one of my other Ugandan children is just all love all the time, and she wants daddy time, and she wants to hug, and she wants go do things that are fun, and she'll tell me anything that I ask or want to know, and is very, very supportive of me every time I do anything. She's like my biggest fan, and so but the challenge is finding those ways to connect. I have a fun story with one of them. My children are Ugandan, so they have African hair, and one of my daughters had decided she was going to stop straightening her hair, and she had joined our church. Actually had a natural hair small group that women were getting together to talk about their natural hair. Well, I went to the natural hair small group with my daughter, and that's quite. I learned all about braiding and going to the right salon and all that kind of stuff. And I would go to her natural hair small group with her, and that was entertaining to her and to me and to the people that saw me walking in. So, that was just one way to connect. One of my daughters just loves to have daddy dates. She likes to go out and, maybe have something to eat and sit and talk. I have one son who would rather just maybe go to Starbucks and sit there and not say anything for a while until he's ready to say something. And so, learning those individual aspects of how to connect is is worthy of taking some time to learn. And so that was a big part of it.
Wow. It sounds like you were really intentional about taking time to connect, which I think is so important and wonderful that you did it.
Yeah, you have to be. And sometimes it's, even when I think about how I raised my biological children, I was a football player, so my son had to be a football player, that kind of stuff. Um, those are kind of mistakes. I learned those mistakes. And so you learn to meet over time, you learn to meet children where they are and what their interests are and show interest in what their interests are. One of my sons was a very talented soccer player. I didn't grow up playing soccer. I didn't know anything about soccer, but I learned to be a soccer dad, and I would go, I learned to be a soccer dad because that was what was important to him, and I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. What do you think has been, well, let me phrase it this way. What about adoption has changed you?
Oh, uh, you know, I would say this. Um, when I had my biological children, I had it all calculated. I was going to be an empty nester by the time I was 48. And then when I met Jodi and we got married, I recalculated and I figured out I was going to be an empty nester by the time I was 58. And then we adopted 4 children. I quit doing the calculation. I did. I did finally become an empty nester, and it took me. It was about 45 years of being a dad before I became an empty nester, and it's wonderful because we're spending time with grandchildren. But so changing my attitude about emptiness, there's nothing scriptural about empty nest. There's nothing really scriptural about retirement. So it probably enhanced and prolonged my career, and and it and honestly, it's kept my outlook about life young. I'm 71. I'm still doing stuff. I'm going to school, uh, and uh, and so just keeping an active, I'm still working. Uh, uh, and I don't know, it kind of, I think adopting the children in some ways pushed me to some of that stuff,
Mhm.
but I have no regrets about that. It's wonderful to be able to keep active and keep being involved. And with all these children, there's always something, there's always something good. There's always something to look forward to. We oddly, as as children start to get married and having their own families, a lot of the traditional things like getting together for Christmas, getting together for Thanksgiving become more difficult because there's more families involved and people are starting to start their own traditions and that sort of thing. But one thing that has happened for us is Fourth of July has become a big gathering date for us, and so that's coming up, and it's just very exciting, and we just look forward to having everybody here, all the in-laws, all the outlaws, and the babies and the dogs, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful time. So. Yeah, I think it's changed me in that way of just looking forward to the next thing and having good, exciting things to look forward to with the children.
Yeah, I agree. And having the grandchildren piece, because two of my Ukrainian kids are now parents. So I have grandchildren,
Mhm.
and I'm always just in awe of how the Lord put these kids in our family, and then now we get to see this next generation of precious little ones that we would have never had in our lives had we not said yes. and walked through some really
Mhm.
hard things in the process, but always worth it. And to just have that blessing of grandchildren is just so special.
And we, as you said in my bio, we have one on the way. It's actually our first African grandchild, and she is due in August. Uh,
Mm.
we've seen we've seen the ultrasounds, and she's beautiful, and we couldn't be more thrilled
Yeah.
to meet her.
Yeah, there's such a blessing. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, Jerry,
Mhm.
you chose the verse I opened with, which I'll read again. Call on me, and I will answer you, and I will show you great and mighty things which you do not know. Why did you choose Jeremiah 33:3?
Well, honestly, that comes from a hard time in my life when I didn't know what to do. And I think the key to the redemption and that time of life was one day telling God, I don't know what to do. and and it was almost like he said, okay, I'll take it from here. And I've just learned over the years, and the hard times and the good times and the whatever times, um, I think generally we have a tendency when if we have any kind, whether it's an ailment or a finance or a whatever, we tend to tell God, here's what I need you to
Mhm.
do.
Yep.
and 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 I think God wants us to say, here's the issue, God.
Mhm.
And he doesn't even say ask. He says, just call on me. And he says, and I will answer. And I'll show you great and mighty things you don't know. And what I've learned just over and over and over is that the answers almost always come from somewhere you couldn't have imagined.
Mm.
And and all of a sudden somebody will come into your child's life or some hidden financial thing will present itself or whatever the topic. It's just amazing how over and over God answers our needs in ways that we would have never expected. And I think that's exactly what that verse is trying to tell us. And so that's my go-to.
Just call on him.
I give things to God
Yeah.
and just take it from there.
Yeah. I love that. So Jodi founded and leads Second Mothers, a global movement uniting women who have answered the call to care for children born to another woman. And now you are part of a group of dads starting Second Fathers. Could you tell us about that?
It has a great story. Jodi, I was actually with her in the Philippines, and she was speaking to a group of women about second mothers, and these were women that were doing the study about second mother study, and she was there speaking, and they had an event, and it was great. I was sitting in there because I was traveling with Jodi, and there was like one other man in there. He was the wife of one of the participants, and I guess he just came with his wife and sat there. And at the end, Jodi said, "Does anybody have any questions?" And the women were fairly timid about that. So all of a sudden, this guy raises his hand. He said, "I have a question." And he said, "Why isn't there second fathers?"
Mm.
And not knowing quite how to answer it, Jodi just kind of you know, off the cuff said, "Because you need to write it." And little did she know that this was a man who is a writer and is a man of faith, and he's actually in seminary. His name is Ken Karenge, and about a year later, um, Jodi got a call from his wife that said, I just want you to know Ken has written the study,
Wow.
and it's excellent. It's excellent. It's more. It'll appeal more to men, to which it should. It almost comes across like a field manual of how to survive, but uh, but it's wonderful. It's due to be. It's in the process of being published. He's actually having it published in Philippines, but we're also coordinating having it published in English. And it's going to be, or the plan is, God willing, to have it ready for CAFO this year in September. So,
Wow.
and if all goes well, we are trying to work out this connection. Ken will actually be attending CAFO, and uh, we'll be able to introduce him and have a session that focuses on second father.
Wow, that's
And
wonderful.
so locally, there's a group of men. You know, we're a bunch of dudes, and I realize we're dudes. We aren't Jodi Jackson Tucker and Sandra Flach. We're just a bunch of dudes trying to do it, and so it's a little more challenging to get people to stay together on a regular basis and do what we need to do. But we're trying, and we do have a team, and we have some men that are very, very interested in making this thing grow. Second Mothers is now global, and there's a huge Facebook group, and there's all these people involved that want to be in it all the time. And so we hopefully we can get there with Second Mothers as well.
Yeah, I love that because the Jodis and the Sandras need the Jerrys and the Waynes, right, to do what we do, and we need those strong second dads, and I love that. And but I also know dads tend to not maybe talk as much as the moms, so maybe the Facebook group won't be as chatty. But do you anticipate doing some kind of like virtual Bible study kind of things or a study of the Second Father's Manual? What's the vision there?
I do. I think we will get things moving, and we will probably, how Jodi has put videos together to introduce the chapters for groups that are doing it. Hopefully, we can do something like that with Ken
Yeah.
or whoever, and also create a group or a Zoom. We what we do right now is we do have Zoom meetings. Um, with a small group of men who are just trying to get this thing going. But I suspect we will grow that over time.
Yeah, well, that's so exciting. And I look forward to seeing the release. I'm sure that that will be announced on social media. We'll share it so folks know when it comes out. And then, of course, I'll be at CAFO as well. So I can't wait to see the book and get my hands on it and learn more about it. So thank you for taking that huge step of faith. And clearly the Lord was writing that story, right? Because Jodi might have said that off the cuff, but I'm sure the Holy Spirit was leading, and here comes this next resource for dad. So that is an incredible part of the story.
Mhm.
Uh, so I know that Second Mothers, you can go online to the website at secondmothers.org. Is there going to be a website or is there a website for Second Fathers? How would people find out more?
Right now, to find out more, you go to secondmothers.org. You'll
Okay.
find you'll find it there, and we will make sure that we get the message out when there is a secondfathers.org uh, ready to see. I think this is so important. I happen to I happen to think that the dad aspect is so incredibly important to this whole thing. You
Absolutely.
have to have, I know we're different from the moms, uh, but you almost have to, well, you don't almost, you have to have that kind of stable rock that's there that everybody can come to and know that there's a dad. I know a lot of single moms carry that whole burden themselves, and God bless them. Uh, I just really need to encourage men that having a dad in the mix is so important, and having him involved. and the whole process is so important.
Yeah. So that was going to be my wrap-up question is, would you share a few words of encouragement to the dads that are listening?
Yeah. Uh, so I lost you just for a second there, but
Oh,
did you ask me a question?
yes. Sorry. I said that was going to be my wrap-up question is, would you share a few words of encouragement for the dads listening?
Oh yeah, you got to be there. You have to be, even if you're the strong silent type, you're
Mhm.
there. My children still call me. My 47-year-old son still calls me and asks me stuff. And you know, it might be something minor. It might be something, do you remember this? Or do you remember how this had worked or whatever? But just having that base, that home base that they can call is not just important now as they're growing up. It's lifelong.
Yeah.
And it's so incredibly important for children to have that stability. Um,
Mhm.
and I do encourage men to follow the calling of James 1:27 of helping widows and orphans and their time of need, and then taking it very seriously and not making it something that just mom has decided to do.
Yeah, we need that rock, that strong rock,
Yeah,
in the home. So, gosh,
right.
Jerry, thank you so much for sharing your story, for supporting Jodi in the ministry and the Renew Retreat as well, and for all that you do. And we look forward to this release of Second Fathers. And thanks so much for being with us today.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sandra, and it's been a joy to be here, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. And as always, thank you for listening to the adoption and foster care journey. I hope you were encouraged by my conversation with second father, Jerry Tucker. And if you're the mom listening to this, and I know a majority of our listeners are moms, share it with the dad in your life, share it with your husband, and any adoptive dad that you know or foster dad that you know, and also check out the links in the show notes. We'll put a link in there to Second Mothers, which is where you'll find the information that currently exists for Second Fathers. And then we will make sure that on our social media we will promote when that Bible study gets released as well. So such an important resource that will be as well. So on this podcast, we not only like to encourage you, we also offer resources to equip you. So in addition to the online and in-person workshops that I mentioned earlier, I also offer one-on-one parent coaching. So if you are raising a child with known or suspected FASD, or maybe you're not even sure, but you're struggling with those big behaviors and you're not sure, is it because they're, I don't know, teenagers? Is it because they are have been adopted? Is it because there maybe was prenatal exposure or they have ADHD or whatever the things are? If you're looking for some one-on-one, you can schedule a one-on-one coaching call with me as well. And of course, and you heard the little commercial for our support group, the Hope for the FASD Journey online support group. If you highly suspect or know that a child that you are raising was prenatally exposed to alcohol, you will want to be a part of that group because it is next level hard parenting a child with FASD, and you really need a community of folks around you who are walking the same journey, keeping their eyes on Jesus, but also linking arms because it is a challenge. It is hard. So that you may be interested in that support group. So you can find all of these resources on our website, justicefororphansny.org. When you go there, just click on the Adoption and Foster Care Journey tab, and it will take you to all of our resources. There is a link in the show notes to make it easy for you as well. And then please subscribe, follow, leave a review for this podcast, share it with your fellow foster and adopting friends that you know so that they can be encouraged with this resource as well. Like and follow Justice for Orphans and the Adoption and Foster Care Journey on social media. We're there as well. And if you like to watch your podcast, if you want to see the video version of this podcast, they are all on the Justice for Orphans YouTube channel. So you can find them all there where you can watch them. So again, thank you so much for being with us today. I am grateful you spent your valuable time with me. I'm thrilled to have you along for the journey.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Adoption and Foster Care Journey podcast, brought to you by Justice for Orphans. We hope you were encouraged today. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review, and share it with your fellow foster and adoptive parent friends so they can be encouraged too. Be sure to find and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Justice for Orphans, and check out our website for vital resources at justicefororphansny.org.